Om Shanti. Our topic for this morning is a very interesting one, especially because it's taken from Baba's latest message for us, or latest signal for us for Shiv Jayanti, his birthday gift to us, that for this Shiv Jayanti, he says to remember the slogan of giving cooperation and making others also cooperative. I know that as an international organization and as a spiritual organization, we many times talk about this aspect of cooperation. We have even done project on cooperation, global cooperation for better worlds. We talk about the power of cooperation also. When we talk about what are the different powers that we can attain through spiritual practice, one of the powers we say is the power of cooperation, extending the cooperation. And I think everybody is familiar with that picture, right? The image of the big, big mountain being lifted by all the little fingers coming together. It's a very beautiful image and story that Baba gives us. That this is exactly what Baba has come to do and inspire us to do, to join him to do. All of us to lend our little finger to lift the huge mountain of sorrow and peacelessness, and bring about the new world, the world of harmony, the world of peace, the world of happiness. So it's not something new in that respect. It's something that we have been hearing about, perhaps even from the first day that we came to Baba's knowledge. And yet Baba is talking even after all these years that this is what is most important and what is most needed in the world today. So it seems like we haven't done enough of it. So we have to give a lot more cooperation in the true sense of the word. And we have to also receive a lot more cooperation from all the different souls of the world. It's cooperation, when you'd say, you usually show the hand. So it refers to something that you do. It's an action or it's an act. But I think the connotation in Baba's recent Murli is not only to do action, but also to do it on a much more subtle level and on a much more genuine level, much more real way. And he specifically talked about it as giving cooperation through good wishes, our good wishes. So I always see cooperation as something that emerges, that is expression of something that is deeper in the soul. And what is deeper in the soul is just pure, natural, spiritual love. When that love is there, then cooperation becomes like a natural outcome of that. Whether it is cooperation in the form of actions, or whether it is in the form of words, or just good wishes, But we don't have to specifically say, oh, let me go and give cooperation to this one. But it automatically emerges. We don't have to make special attempt, special effort. And this is why Baba said it's something easy. But it's only easy when we are able to recognize and feel that the core of that spiritual love, the relationship that we have with each other as a human family, spiritual family, if that is felt, then the cooperation becomes easy. So cooperation is a natural expression. It's like a natural sanskar, even you can say, no? Of Brahmin life. Because as soon as you come to Brahmin life, one of the basic recognition is the love that binds us all together as Baba's children. Isn't it? So when there is that true recognition of Baba's love, then cooperation becomes a natural outcome or a natural sanskar of Brahmin life. Of course, some of us take a little bit longer to actually to really fit in the situation and say that yes, this is where I can be cooperative, or we can feel comfortable offering our cooperation or things like that. But basically inside each one of us, I think this thought emerges as soon as we come to Baba. I want to offer some cooperation, or I want to do something. I want to lend a little bit of cooperation. And that actually happens because that spark of love is ignited when we come to Baba. That pure spiritual love is ignited. But also there are times in our life where, although it is, it's something that is natural, but it takes really concerted effort to offer that cooperation, and that's why it is many times referred to as a power, the power of cooperation, where it is not easy. You have to kind of go out of your way to lend cooperation, so where you have to gather some extra strength, extra energy to say that yes, I can do this, isn't it? Because love is a virtue, you can easily say, but in the power of cooperation you have to actually say that, it's not natural for me, but yet, I know that within me there is an ability that I can get out of my situation, or I can go out of my way and I can do something more than normally what I could do. So it becomes like a real power of cooperation. So it can be seen in that way too, that we have to emerge that power sometimes to say to Baba and to Baba's family that yes, let me use the power of cooperation now. But underneath it all, Baba has told us very clearly that the maximum cooperation, or perhaps even the only cooperation that we can truly offer to Baba and to Baba's work at this time is the cooperation of our own purity. Right? Before, we were used to running and jumping into situations and lending our hand and physically trying to help people and do things. But Baba has given us this very, very basic foundation knowledge that in spite of all that, the real cooperation that I need and the world needs and the souls in the world need at this time is your own purity. The purity of your actions, purity of your thoughts, purity of your words. And so the life we have taken up, the life that we have adopted of purity, is an act of cooperation in itself. And we must never undermine that. We must never underestimate that that's my true cooperation to Baba's work. Even sometimes it is not recognized, especially by the people outside, or even by your own family, it is not seen as cooperation. But we ourselves must never lose the faith that is truly, that foundation of a pure life that I am living. It's going to prepare me as an instrument, even if I cannot see and others cannot see where the cooperation is coming. But I must never lose that faith that Baba is really preparing me as an instrument to really offer the true cooperation that souls are going to be needing very soon. Perhaps it's happening already, but if not, if I'm not able to appreciate that, but I must never forget that Baba is preparing me for that, or my life, my pure life, is actually a step one, step two, is a preparation for that. But beyond that, in terms of the purity of our life, the disciplines, the principles that we are following, in a practical way, I think it is a real art of giving and receiving cooperation, how we translate that purity into day-to-day situations where we are actually giving cooperation to people, where people can appreciate that, yes, you're not just living a pure life for the sake of living it, but I can also feel that it's helping me. This is the art, I think, that we are learning, and we have to, of course, learn a lot more. How do we translate that purity just in terms of our dharana, translating that into something that is practically fruitful, beneficial, useful and visible actually to the world. And for that, I think certain things in our own inculcation, practice, efforts, if we pay attention to, it becomes easy, and not only easy, but it becomes much more enjoyable. That yes, really this is what I'm doing at this time, that even though sometimes it may seem like, say for example, we are two people and we are living two different lives, but I'm actually living my life in this way in order to be of some use, of some help to the other person as well. So one thing that Baba directly, he said what actually you need to do in terms of giving cooperation is, what people are looking for it, but in what way are they looking for it? He said it very beautifully, and he said that they're looking for it in terms of happiness. Right? Baba talked about making others happy. Remember he said, Dil Khush Toli? He said the cooperation that you have to give to others is the cooperation of offering each other this little piece of toli that usually we get, Dil Khush Toli, the toli that makes the heart happy. So of course he said it's not the physical thing, but it's how much we are able to distribute or share that feeling of happiness with each other. And you can literally see in the world, that it's being starved. Everyone is being starved of basic qualities. There is nothing like happiness left anymore, almost. Or even if it is, it's so very temporary, so very fleeting and so superficial. So when he talked about happiness, I think in terms of cooperation, one of the things that we have to really pay attention to is that I have to be happy. And I have to be happy all the time. I have to maintain my state of happiness all the time. Before I go out and say, oh, I can help you, or I can try to be cooperative to this one. But the most important thing that really people are looking for, everyone is looking for, is that sense of natural happiness, that true happiness, genuine happiness, which only we as Baba's children can actually exemplify. We can actually be the practical example of that, isn't it? And so very, very important I felt is, this bit of message Baba said is, be happy and share happiness, or distribute happiness. And that truly is our true cooperation, because purity must be translated into happiness. How many murlis we listen to Baba, and we talk about when the soul is pure, how the world is full of happiness, right? He talks about a pure world, the world being transformed from impure to pure, and why that is important, why souls have to be purified, why world has to be purified, because ultimately the result is that of happiness. But of course we are not going to sit back and say that it's going to happen in golden age, right? We must be able to see that literally in our own lives right now. So as I was saying, our cooperation is our life of purity, But am I able to see that purity in the form of my own state of happiness? Not only that, but constant happiness, all the time happiness. Or is it sometimes fluctuating, or am I lose even fraction of it sometimes when something happens? And this is what we have to work on the self, that if I'm happy, then it's not too much of an effort to go out and say that, yes, I have to give a cooperation, but it happens very, very naturally, very automatically through your company, through your speech and conversations, through your gestures. People will feel cooperation very naturally. So as I was saying, this is something so important that, sometimes it feels like we are not doing anything, in Brahmin life. But many times I've seen Bap Dada give personal blessings or even blessings to groups. What you have to do is never ever lose your happiness. He even sometimes says, maybe your breath will leave the body, but happiness should not leave the body. Right? So you should not leave, in other words, you should not leave that treasure of happiness. So somehow or the other we have to find ways of keeping ourselves very, very cheerful, pleasant, happy in all the ways. The other thing that I think it comes to when in terms of giving cooperation is that Baba has of course been mentioning, even in the last Murli he mentioned about what we should think of ourselves as is world servant. Remember? He talked about world servant. Brahma Baba used to sign his name as world servant. What does a world servant indicate? That the vision is so vast, so broad, that it covers the whole world. So our vision is not just for those people who are sitting in the auditorium. Our vision is not just for those who are coming to the centers. It's not about just, small chosen group of people, but world servant, he said. Not only that, but when you're in that state, then whoever comes and whatever happens, then you're always able to distribute or share something with that person. He said, whoever comes in front of you, no matter who it is, and in some way or the other, make sure that that one receives something or the other. So until and unless we have created that awareness that I am really in that world servant mode, the consciousness, in other words, the awareness, in other words, is that I'm for the whole world. Whatever Baba is giving or whatever I'm instrument for, it's not limited to one person, it's not limited to a few people, but it's for the whole world. So that kind of broad vision, very, very broad vision, and an unlimited attitude. That, yes, it is true that we have recognized Baba. It is true that we belong to the Brahmin clan. It is true that, that we follow a particular type of lifestyle, and in that way, yes, we are different from the rest of the world, but it is not to say that my vision and my attitude should exclude the rest of the world. It should be very, very inclusive, unlimited attitude. In other words, as I said, even I'm following this purity or I'm following this lifestyle, but it's really for the sake of the world. And so naturally when someone comes in front of me who is not perhaps, close to Baba, who has not recognized Baba, then that vision will actually penetrate that soul if I have the unlimited consciousness, unlimited attitude. Baba many times talks about serving through mind, right? Serving through the mind. How do we serve through the mind? It's through our awareness, through our attitude, through our vision. But then how do we create that? The first thing we need to think is that I am world. Whatever Baba is giving me, it is for the whole world. In other words, I have to create that unlimited attitude and very, very broad outlook, so to speak, broad vision for the whole world. And you see this more and more because as Baba's work is growing in size and there is a lot of expansion and we are coming in contact with so many different kind of souls, you will find that they are not perhaps willing to accept the full of Baba's knowledge, right? You want to share knowledge, and of course they will take a little bit of knowledge, they'll take a little bit of inspiration, but not necessarily the full 100% that you want to give, right? And yet, for us not to lose interest, for us not to lose enthusiasm, for us not to lose the initiative to keep on serving these souls, continue to serve these souls in different ways. Our own inculcation, our own effort has to be at the level of our awareness and attitude and vision. Otherwise, what would happen is on the field of service, we are serving and we are seeing the result of whatever little service, physical service we're doing. And the result of that service kind of takes away our enthusiasm sometimes. It takes away from, how much we can do more. Sometimes, I've told them so many times, or I've given this person is coming for so many years and still doesn't understand this, right? I'm sure it must be happening in many places that for years together souls will come. Even they will be listening to Murli. But they will ask sometimes such question in such a way that you will feel that, is this person understanding anything at all after all these years? No? Yes, no? And then you begin to think, and all of a sudden your vision for that soul changes, that why am I spending so much time with this person? Or, okay, yes, time-wise you can say I want to spend a little bit less time, but internally our attitude, our vision, our good wishes should never change, right? So our inculcation in terms of giving cooperation, constantly continuing to give cooperation, should always be that let me maintain, as Baba maintains, the consciousness, as Baba said, the example of Brahma Baba, world servant. Okay, the world, or whoever soul it is, still needs Baba's help or still needs Baba's support. So let me be the instrument to do whatever little, the soul can take from Baba. So very, very important in that way that I keep myself open. The other thing is that, again, as I said, cooperation is something that, you don't have to make a lot of effort if there is that natural love, natural purity inside, natural quality of spirituality and spiritual vision. The other thing that souls are extremely, extremely looking for these days is spirituality in their life. No matter, how much you may think that they are not spiritual, but they are actually looking for spirituality in their life. So I have seen many times that people just want to be in your company. Sometimes, many times they will come to the center or they will come and offer their help to you, but only because they want to be in the company of Brahmins, not because of anything else. So it's like an attraction, a spiritual attraction that draws souls to that. So I believe that is also our cooperation. That just through our spiritual personality, just through our image, just through our, just state of mind and stage of the soul, let people take. Let us not put a limit on how we should, give cooperation or how people should take cooperation. But let's keep ourselves very, very open in terms of spiritual attraction. Many times I've heard that in the early days, souls had, we hear stories about how dadis went out and started service, right? How did they get cooperation in the beginning? People would just look at them, they would feel the genuineness, the purity of their intention, and then they would want to offer help, isn't it? They didn't have to even ask sometimes. These days, of course, we say that, let's at least ask. But in those days, it was not even asking. It was just the the very personality of the Adis or the sisters, the little sisters that went out. Or, for example, we hear a story about Mama, whoever came in front of Mama, wanted to do something, immediately wanted to surrender some things, immediately wanted to change their lifestyle in some way, or immediately had some realization, something. So what was that magnetic personality of Mama all about? It was spirituality, isn't it? Something that is very unique, something very different, something that is very valuable, for people, something that people cannot find anywhere. Maybe they don't even know that they're looking for it. But when they look at you, they should feel, oh, this makes me feel good. I would like to be like this too. So that kind of feeling, if we can instill in that, so that is also true cooperation. Because, by giving knowledge or by, asking people to do certain things, how much can you do and how much will people also be inspired to do? But when people see and feel something and experience something in your company, then people instantly want to do something. So it's, not only for Brahmins, but even for outsiders, I feel that it's really important that, we pay attention a lot to our own self-image, our image of spirituality, how much we are able to uphold that image of spirituality. To that extent, we are able to extend the cooperation in a very subtle way, in a very genuine way, and in a very powerful way in people's lives. So it is important that we are focusing on our own image, and then it becomes like an overflow, because your image, where is your image going to be created from? From your connection with Baba, isn't it? Isn't it? So when Baba is totally and constantly filling the soul, and the image is being kept, totally spiritual, then naturally there is overflow of that energy. So cooperation must be more like an overflow. It's not like I have to even put my hand in the pocket and say, let me give you this. That also takes time, I think, isn't it? I can say, oh, you want this? Let me give you this. But let it be so much overflowing that people can feel it through the face, through the eyes, through the vision, through the attitude, through your state of mind, in other words. So it's like an overflow phenomenon. The act of cooperation is an overflow phenomenon. And then, in a practical way, I think what people are looking for these days is that even though, we say that it's all one family and it's God's family, it's spiritual family, Baba, I think recently in the last Murli talked about a very beautiful feeling that is important for us to instill in the minds of people, and that was to do with a sense of belonging. He talked about being worship-worthy, and he talked about being ancestor souls, remember? So what does that mean, to be ancestor souls? When I am an ancestor of somebody who's in front of me, the feeling that they would have is that this one belongs to me, or I belong to this one. Isn't it that sense of belonging? So how do we create this sense of belonging, or, what does it mean in terms of, practically offering cooperation? What I find is that, people need a lot of inspiration, lot of encouragement, lot of acceptance, and for that our consciousness again has to be very, very inclusive. As I said, even though we are Brahmins, special, very, very elevated souls, but our consciousness has to be very, very inclusive. And that has to be then translate into the level of actions as well, in terms of lending cooperation or giving cooperation, right? For example, souls will come to you, and we know, of course, that Baba and Baba's work and Baba's instruments are purely for doing spiritual work, right? They're purely for spiritual work. We don't get too much involved in worldly matters, or we don't get involved in family matters, or we don't get involved in those kind of lokic things. But yet, when people come, somehow or the other, they should get that sense of at least acknowledgement from us. Mhm. That we know, what they are going through, for example. That true compassion, true sense of belonging. That they don't feel that, these people, when I go and talk to them about my problems, they will say that you have to take care of it yourself. Yes, we know that, yes, karma-wise, we know that, yes, karma is everyone's own karma and everyone has to deal with one's own karma. But I think when Baba is talking so much these days about compassion and about blessings and about good wishes and about cooperation, what he is meaning also is in a very, very subtle way, to bridge the gap, between people. The people are looking for power, looking for peace of mind, looking for some kind of special experience from God with which they can settle their accounts, or with which they can go through whatever situations they have to go through. Right? So we don't have to do it directly, but at least, there is some kind of an acknowledgement that yes, you're on the right track, you're on the path of transformation, you're Baba's child, you're God's child, and just remembrance of Baba will give you all the strength that you need to take care of that situation. So to have that kind of belongingness in which, how would you help a person in your own family? Sometimes you really can't help, right? Especially, say, for example, if a person in your family is sick, you can't do much. The person has to take care of his own pain or go through his own pain, tolerate his own sickness, illness. But still you would have the compassion to understand that pain and to offer support, to offer help, or to offer the right kind of guidance or whatever is needed. So in the same way, people, souls in the world who have different physical situations or physical karmas to settle or different kinds of problems, yes, we know that we cannot really do and we cannot really get involved in any of those things. But when Baba said, let them feel that sense of belonging and you give them that power, this is what he meant. That, let there be that sense of belonging that, yes, this is my brother's soul, or this is my sister, and yes, let me also look at this soul with that vision. Baba talked about pure spiritual vision, that what it means is pure spiritual vision is really to be able to see that soul with the vision of its own original sanskars. Remember he described that in the last Murli. Spiritual vision, Atmik Drishti, he described that, you should be able to see that soul with that vision of its own original sanskars. In other words, it has sanskars of God also, God's child, has its own power, it has its own purity, it has its own strength, right? Own light and own might. So looking at that soul with that light and might, and giving that confirmation to the soul that yes, wherever you are right now, it is okay. Just feeling that acceptance and yet encouraging that soul to move forward, subtly helping the soul to move forward, to settle in whatever way it can settle. So that is the cooperation that is needed. And it's very subtle work, no? It's not something that you say with your words or, just speaks few words and then forget. Although it helps. Baba did say that, even through words, if you can offer anything, any kind of consolation or cooperation, even for a few seconds, it is good. But what he really meant is, through our mind, let there be such a vision of compassion and mercy and unlimited attitude that, we feel that it is our family and we are able to give that cooperation, that yes, let this soul also connect with Baba and transform, receive power in such a way that they can also settle whatever situations they have to settle. So that is very, very important. So like this, giving cooperation for us in a spiritual ways, it's very, very important. And Baba talks about cooperation as a natural consequence of giving love, because it's not a different subject by itself, but first make them loving, then make them cooperative, and then make them yogi. Remember, this is the the sequence he always says, that first make them loving, then make them cooperative, and then make them yogis, right? So what does that mean? Sahaj yogis. So when you're able to offer cooperation, what it ignites in the minds of people is love. This kind of true cooperation coming from, not with the sense of I. Again, the very important thing about cooperation is I'm not giving. It's not. This is why Baba used the word become a master bestower. Well, remember he used the word bestower, and bestower is a very, very beautiful word. Baba is the bestower, and giving is different from bestowing, quite different from bestowing. Giving, taking, but when it is bestowed, there is no question of taking back, not even in thought. Not even in thought there is the thought that this should come back to me. And that's why Baba is called as the bestower. He's not just the giver, but he's the bestower, no? So Baba said we also have to become bestower, in which we have no consciousness at all that I am giving. When Baba talked about the subtleness of I and my, in whatever relationships we come into, in whatever contact we come into, he says you have to become the bestower, which really means the total consciousness of I is not there, because Baba is the bestower. Whatever souls need in their life at this point in time, due to whatever karmas, no human being can give it whatsoever, let alone me. No human being can actually provide that to any souls at this time. The only way, even if they provide or even if they take from each other as human beings, somehow or the other they will have to give back. In other words, it will be a karma, it will be an individual, it will be a new karma that is created at confluence age, which we don't want to do that. Right? We don't want to create new karmas. And so this is why this offering cooperation is very, minutely connected also with completely getting rid of this subtle aspect of I too. Yes, say for example, if I've been in an opportunity, if I've been given an opportunity to be of service to someone, Baba talked about how even that is a gift from God. Right? Even that chance, even that opportunity for serving, even that, connection that I have, that should also be seen as an offer or a gift from God. It's not because, I had this connection, or it's, oh no, I have this speciality, or I have this talent. But look at it as opportunity that has been provided in the drama, as something that is beautiful, beneficial time in the drama, but it's really offering from Baba. Baba talked about Prabhu then, which means that it's a very beautiful thing. It's something that comes from God. Yesterday or day before, I think that Dadi Janki was talking about the different things that Baba gives blessings, Baba gives gift, and then this is something that actually comes as an offering from God. That because we have recognized, or because we have been, you're worthy for it, but Baba offers these opportunities or chances or specialities. So looking at this as offering of God to the soul, so important, so that people can feel that this is truly cooperation coming from God. Because really tell you the fact that even as much as people are looking for peace or looking for help, or they are in desperate situations, but people also know, souls also know that they're very scared to take from people, from human beings. There is a big wall there they don't want, because they know that there is a bind. They have given and taken between human beings for such a long time. So there is a wall there that, what do you want from me that you're giving me this? Maybe they're not saying it, but inside the mind they're thinking this. So we have to be, we don't want anything, but it's Baba who is giving. So that should be absolutely clear, which is what is called as that total state of transparency. Transparency means there is no personal agenda for me in it. I have nothing in it. I have taken out, whatever I'm supposed to get, I get directly from Baba. I don't want from you. So that should be very, very clear in front of souls. So that's what is called as total transparency. So let me be so transparent in front of souls that whatever little souls want to take, but they recognize that there is no bind, there is no obligation, there is no human karma involved in that, but it's directly coming from God. So whether it is physical or whether it is subtle or whether it is time that you're giving to that person, but they shouldn't get that sense of, obligation. Because then people feel heavy, the souls feel heavy, and they don't want to take anymore. And then we become instrument to deprive them from taking from Baba. So this is where our whole internal checking is so important. Baba said, have you checked all the internal I and the subtle aspects of the I and the mind, right? That, Baba is giving this, and then do I recognize that it is Baba's gift, Baba's offering, or am I serving in the consciousness, oh, I'm good at this, or I have this speciality, or I can do this well? No. So that's not true cooperation. That again is, getting the soul into some kind of burden or some kind of bondage. And that is really not true cooperation. So important. And so as I was saying, making souls loving, through our cooperation to them, automatically draws cooperation from other souls. Automatically, it draws cooperation from other souls. We don't have to really go out and say, we need this done from you, or we need this done from you, or we need that done from you. But that sense of inclusiveness and that sense of belonging, that sense of genuine love, which they feel from Baba, automatically inspires them to come close. Coming close is the in-between step between cooperation. So cooperation and coming close are also very important. That you can't expect somebody who is out there and say, can you do that for me? But once they come closer, a little bit bringing them close, then it becomes easy for them. Oh yes, I think I can do that too. Oh, I think I can do that too, like that. So again, the drawing cooperation or receiving cooperation, making souls cooperative, as Baba said, the most important thing I feel is again this consciousness of what are they cooperating for. There should be the recognition, is it me? That they are trying to cooperate with me as a human being, or is even as an instrument. So again, if I have the consciousness, oh, I need so much help, oh, I am so tired, oh, I have so much work, right? And then they of course feel the burden of it, and they, out of helplessness, out of hopelessness sometimes, they'll say, oh, maybe I can do something for you. Even that is not drawing cooperation. So as Baba said this time, even no matter how much work you have, how tired you are, or how much, what do you have to do? You have to keep smiling, Baba said. As much as the work you have to do, so much you have to keep smiling. So that whole lightness, as I said before, that spiritual lightness, spiritual attraction in our personality of doing so much but not really doing so much. It will give them the impression, but they are not doing it. This one is not doing it. But it seems like someone else is doing it. It seems like, whoever they are doing it for, they're getting so much in return from that one. So even in our doing, what they should see is the one who is making us do and the one for whom we are doing it. That should be very visible. So that will draw cooperation from others. Baba is Karan Karavanhar. Right? So they should see that Karan Karavanhar is doing it. And not only that, but they are also instruments, they are doing for that one. So as much they are able to feel that it's not you asking for help, they feel free. As soon as they want, they see a human being asking for help, they shut off. Even they are offering help, but internally they are not open. Right? They're not doing it with the right consciousness. So very important in terms of drawing cooperation, receiving cooperation. The cooperation is not for me. Sometimes, for example, people will not recognize Baba, right? They don't know Baba or they have not recognized Baba's work. But this is where our consciousness internally should be so strong of being an instrument, of being Baba as Karan Karavanhar. It should be so strong, that something begins to happen in their mind. They can feel it, that it's not for you. I'm not doing this for you. That should be clear for them. Because as soon as we have the slightest awareness, I have to get this job done, or I have to complete this job, can you do that? You've lost it. So that is our subtle inculcation too. And then the whole aspect of how Baba has taught us that whatever they are giving cooperation for, whatever they're offering cooperation for, who are they doing it for? Yes, Baba, but most importantly for themselves, right? They're doing it for their own selves, right? And that again, that is not like an intellectual point of knowledge that we say, oh, this person, you want to create some fortune? Sometimes we offer this opportunity to people to serve. We want to create some fortune, do this. But internally we are really thinking that, oh, it's good if this person comes and helps me out a little bit. But no, how much truly and genuinely we are working with the consciousness that you're so happy that this soul is creating fortune. You are happy for them, truly. You're not just using point of knowledge saying, oh, this person is creating fortune. That, of course, yes. But are you happy for the soul, that the soul is getting this chance to create fortune? Or are you just happy that the soul is coming to help you? Makes a difference, right? Because they can see the difference, they can feel the difference. Even through your mouth you're saying, you're creating fortune, but internally, they can feel that you're really happy because they're coming to help you. So truly creating that awareness of creating fortune is so important. And as I said, these are all points of knowledge, and we do hear about these things, so many times. But how much do we really instill in our mind that this is the consciousness that we have to work with? No? This is the consciousness that we have to literally work with. It's not just for me to understand intellectually or for the other person to understand intellectually. But really it should be very, very wholesome experience for that soul, that not only are you talking about it, but you're also, your whole demeanor, your whole state of mind, your whole vibrations, they can feel that the same quality from you. Like I said before, the transparency. So what has happened now is that we as Brahmins, we have so much knowledge. So internally it's there, knowledge, or at least we know that this is how we should be. But in terms of actually revealing that in our actions or even in our thoughts, in our words, sometimes it's not there. There is a discrepancy, And people are able to pick that up very quickly, very, very quickly. And true cooperation really means that completely taking that gap away, that internally the purity and also externally the same purity, the same kind of good wishes for that soul, same kind of powerful thoughts for the soul. Whatever knowledge is saying, I'm able to actually create those same thoughts, same feelings, same vibrations for that soul. So not seeing any difference from the inside and the outside. Now this is the cooperation that Baba is talking about. Right? Let them feel it, from the inside and from the outside. Both. So as I was saying, so not me, and then the creating fortune, The other thing that will happen as you draw help or cooperation from other souls is that, it's not easy, especially when you begin to, well, I shouldn't say especially, whether it is Brahmins or whether it is non-Brahmins or not, souls without knowledge. And sometimes it's much easier, I think everybody would agree, that it's much easier to get something done by yourself than by getting cooperation from 5 people. Yes? How many of you agree with that? Right? Is it easier for you to do something, or is it easier for you to say, look, give me 5 people and to do it? Because if you get 5 people, you get 5 different sanskars and set of nature and personality and way of doing and everything, right? So that is the real opportunity now for me to work, on myself. And that I feel is a real art. That if I'm able to get the same task, 5 different souls engaged in that same task, offer that same opportunity that I could have taken, same opportunity, and created out of that same opportunity, created the fortune of 5 different souls. And in the process, it gives me an opportunity to learn so much, how to work with individual sanskars. What is it that is lacking in me that I can improve on myself? Because every time we work with another soul, it's like a mirror to my own sanskars, my own way of thinking, my own way of doing things. Even it may be very good, I may be very, very good in something. But the fact that I begin to start working with one other soul, it will show me something about my way of doing that I have not seen it before. Good, maybe bad. Maybe good, maybe bad, but at least I have not recognized it. And working with another soul gives me an opportunity to recognize my own strength as well as my weakness. Not only weakness, but also my strength. Sometimes even my strength, I take it for granted. But when I start working with someone else, then I begin to notice, I can do this, very well with this person, or I can. So it's a very, very good opportunity that Baba puts us on this, huge ground and mixes and matches us with all the different souls and say, do it with others. So it's very, very wonderful opportunity for us to grow and to see it as an opportunity for our own growth. And this is so important now. Because why? We cannot do it single-handedly, believe it or not, no matter how good we are. Baba's work, Baba's task is growing out of proportion. Out of proportion, right? Even as unlimited as we are. But individually, the reason why we are unlimited is because we are so many of us. And we can draw cooperation from so many. So it's very important to recognize, the role of cooperating with each other, or the role of drawing cooperation from everybody else in Baba's task, especially these days. And this is why I think, yes, it takes a little bit of patience, it takes persistence, it takes, a few other qualities, of trying to train that person, so to speak, quote unquote train. Nobody can really train, but you can actually inspire and facilitate that person to learn the proper way. So that also is a skill, that also is an art, and in that process, I'm the one who is gaining. It's not that I have lost, We usually think, instead of doing it in 2 hours, I have to spend 10 hours, 8 hours training this one, training that one, training that one, and then I have lost it. Okay, then keep on doing it over and over again, 2 hours. Again another 2 hours. Next day another 2 hours. So you'll be doing only the same thing. You cannot move on to do anything more. But if instead one day you train 10 hours you take and you train a few more people, on the second day, on the third day, they'll be ready to do that task, and you'll be able to do something much more valuable. Maybe something that only you can do, others can't do. So we have to think differently now in Baba's task too, of drawing cooperation really means that, I have to think logically and say that, how much can I keep on doing, or how much can few of us keep on doing? So this is where I said, let's be more inclusive. Let's try to incorporate everybody's specialities, everybody's talents. Let's try to be understanding and giving and tolerating and all the qualities that Baba talks about. Let's do it together. And this is a big opportunity for them, because immediately, nobody can learn the right thing. Everybody needs time to learn it and to grow to that level. But never forgetting that in the process, I have gained. Because not only have I created my fortune, but I have also helped few other souls to create their fortune. Working with few number of souls or other souls. One very interesting idea that came up in the last year, and Sister Mohini had been mentioning it in quite a few places, and it was very, very good. And it had to do with the Rosary of 8, right? Baba talks about the Rosary of 8. 8 beads in the Rosary, who will be all the way in the top. And Baba always challenges us that each one of us could be on that bead, on that Rosary. One of the concepts is that, yes, we can think that, I'm going to be one of the bead and others are going to be somewhere. But if I think that the 8 beads of the Rosary, in order for me to go into that bead, in order for me to go into that Rosary, I have to create my own Rosary right where I am, right where my field of service is. Say, for example, I'm in the field of service in one place and I'm trying to be on the top 8, trying to connect with 7 other souls from somewhere else, without paying attention to the souls that I'm living with or I'm working with or I'm serving with. It's not going to work. So what I have to do is I have to recognize that there are 7 other souls waiting around me, to form that Rosary of 8 right now here. So we have to come together as a group and we have to start cooperating with each other and offering cooperation and receiving cooperation for each other in Baba's task right here and right now. Very interesting, isn't it? Because we usually think that 8 means, I have to think, maybe Dadi, maybe this thing, I'll never get to be like that. But we start from right where we are. The very next soul that is waiting to offer cooperation in Baba's work, if I'm not able to use that soul, if I'm not able to work with that soul, how I'm going to go past and, to the highest level, isn't it? So forming 8 souls, this bead or this Rosary of 8, right where you are, and start working. It's like what people would call as teamwork, right? Teamwork. But here, of course, we know it's not just a team, but each of the 8 is very unique, very individual, very special, has their own speciality. So what it will take from me is I will need to recognize everybody's speciality. I will need to recognize everyone's strength, everyone's weakness also. And I will need to find a way of working with everyone. I will need to harmonize my sanskars with everyone. So in that way, there is so much of potential for my own growth, spiritual growth in that whole process. And that's what will get me to the next Rosary. And then to the next Rosary, and then to the next Rosary. So it's an interesting concept to work with, that, for us to start giving or receiving cooperation from each other as Brahmin souls, it can be very tough sometimes. For other souls, we can easily say, okay, I can extend good wishes to them, but amongst Brahmin souls, to maintain good wishes, to maintain that vision, yes, this soul can transform too, this soul can learn too, this soul can do this job too. That can be very tough. And that is the true cooperation that we have to give and take from each other as Brahmins at this time. So an interesting challenge, that we've been taken up, that, whether it is a small center or a big center, or, whether it is a department or whatever, but try working with a small group of souls and really harmonize, so that Baba's work can really excel. Not just work for the sake of working, but really harmonize in such a way that an outsider can come and say that, yes, this is God's children, God's family, God's instruments who are at work. So that's been one of our inspirations for the year, recognizing that our 8 souls are right amongst us, wherever we are. It's not out there somewhere, and for that I need to recognize everyone's speciality and everybody's strength and talent and all of that virtues as well. The other thing I think that's coming up lately, I think for many of us, is that yes, we are working with BKs, Brahmins, Baba's children, but we're also being offered help from a lot of outside source, people who are in contact, people who are in relationship, with the BKs. They would come and they would offer, let me do something, let me do something, let me do something. And the question often arises, do we take help from them? We know that there are certain areas, for example, in the center, like for example in the kitchen and the cooking, and certain sacred areas which we consider as sacred areas in the yajna, which I know that only we know the internal running of it. But there are many areas in Baba's work, where there is a lot of opportunity, a lot of scope for other souls to come and lend their cooperation, their little finger, because that's how they will create their place, in the future world. And so what does it take from us in order to receive or to draw cooperation? One is, of course, to draw cooperation, but how to sustain that? How to sustain that? Because they don't have the same understanding as we do. They don't make the same kind of spiritual effort as we do. They don't have the same spiritual stage as we do, right? The values sometimes may be different also, their spiritual values. And yet they want to offer their expertise or their talent or their something to Baba's work. And so how do we match it? There's again, as I said, yes, there needs to be inclusiveness, but also in the process we have to be very sensitive to the fact that we have to still maintain the integrity and the pure energy of Baba's work. We cannot dilute that. We cannot dilute, for example, the atmosphere of a center. We cannot dilute, for example, the intent with which we serve souls. We cannot dilute, for example, what Baba talks about. Everything is, it's a voluntary thing. In other words, so people from outside will not probably recognize some of these principles. So what we have to do is we need to be very, very strong internally in our own dharana, in our own principles, certain principles that Baba has laid down for us, in our internal working. For example, our everyday routine of, getting up in the morning and having that very, very valuable time to build the foundation of the day. We must not let go of that. Our principle of maintaining the purity of food and the basic principles, the external, the physical principles, we should not let go of that. And that actually is the pillar on which, a lot of other souls will be able to come and provide their cooperation or their support without even knowing, that they are different. Without even knowing that they are different, because the strength of our dharana will build such a foundation in Baba's work that, automatically they will feel that whatever is happening is the right thing. They will not get other thought that it should happen any other way. And Baba talks about being yog-yukt, for example, or yukti yukt. What does that mean? It's actually creating that kind of a solid foundation, in the way we are, in the way we do things, in the way we interact with people, that even as much as they are different and they may think differently, but in the moment that they are working with us, they will be able to blend and accept, some of our ways very, very easily, very nicely. So for that we need to maintain the strength of our own dharana and of our own principles. Yes, as I was saying, some of Baba's places are becoming more and more public. They're more like public places, and many souls will come. And so naturally the atmosphere is, it's difficult to maintain. And this is why it's even more important in those places to have all the proper dharana and the routine and the disciplines, properly laid down. And then when others come, it'll be easy to kind of talk to them and to make them understand that we do it in this way because of so and so. Eventually we'll have to explain with knowledge why it is done like this or why it is done like that. But if our own dharana is not there, then it will not be easy to explain and get the cooperation of other souls, because they will only see the differences, they will not see the benefits, or they will not see, the oneness of our goal and our aim. So that's important, as I thought that, as much as we are able to maintain, our discipline, our dharana, and let other souls come and take the strength from that pillar, from that support of that pure principles that Baba has given us. And they will not recognize it in the beginning, but little by little they will recognize that yes, they truly experience benefit in their own life when they work with the BKs or when they work at the center or whatever. I was thinking that, when it comes to cooperation in a practical way, as Brahmins giving cooperation, one, of course, that you will find that, your own situation in life, gets you in contact with souls on a one-to-one level in which, you're able to offer that one-to-one cooperation or receive cooperation. But again, the consciousness there is, it's not me, it's Baba. And then there are situations in the family, whether it is Lokik or Alokik family, where it is, where somehow, you kind of exemplify something for the family. And that is the cooperation that you give to the whole family. Some principle, some value, some way of doing something that, that everybody can look up to and say, yes, this is good to do it this way. So you show the path, so to speak, to some of these, the family members, both Lokik and Alokik. But also on the other level, of course, Baba talks about our cooperation on a subtle level to the whole world. But one thing you must have also noticed is that, especially here in India, in Bharat, one of the things that's happening a lot is that cooperation on a social level. That, Brahma Kumaris are really branching out to offer, social help, in terms of, you have seen, for example, the hospital activities and some other activities and, the way in which the community here is served and all of that. So the whole principle behind that being is that it's branches. No? So when the foundation is solid, then the branches can take a lot of nutrition from that. And the foundation here is so solid. The foundation is of purity. Foundation is of spirituality. So there is no fear of losing spirituality. There's no fear of losing that purity. When the purity, that foundation is not strong of purity and spirituality, then we get scared that, if we do this, then we will lose our focus or we will lose our time. But if we are really, really strongly founded in the foundation of purity and spirituality, little by little, we can allow more and more some of these social benefits to happen, which is what Baba has been indicating too, right? That let people see the benefit of whatever you're doing. Let the Brahma Kumaris not be seen just as people who sit and meditate. right? They should also see them as people who are very active in the society and who bring solutions to some of the problems in the society, whether it is on the medical field he's talked about or whether it's any other education field or whatever. But that's the kind of cooperation that we are giving now also to the world, to wherever we are, wherever sisters are, wherever instruments are. A lot of that kind of help is coming forth, cooperation is coming forth. And I'm really very, very appreciative that, yes, it didn't happen in the beginning, but after the foundation has been laid and it is strong, it's now time really for us to show to the world that this, and this is what the benefit of spirituality, of purity is. And that's our cooperation for the whole world. So truly, it's not a project, it's not just a global cooperation for a better world project, but this is happening in practical, that step by step, day by day, individual by individual, everyone is experiencing the benefit of the cooperation of purity and spirituality from Baba's children. Isn't it? So big realization. But of course, as I said, Baba, the fact that Baba mentions it again and again means that the world needs it a lot more, and we need to be a lot more prepared and a lot more ever ready every time to be able to offer it in every way possible, through our thoughts, through our words, through our actions, through our contacts, relationships, as Baba is expecting that. Yes.